Good afternoon, everyone. I am Michael Steelman, Director of Alumni Career Management and Professional Networks at William & Mary, and I am delighted to welcome you to this afternoon's webinar, The Insider's Guide to LinkedIn. Today's webinar is part of William & Mary's Alumni Webinar Series and is made possible by the support of the William & Mary Alumni Association. We seek to provide relevant programming for our lifelong commitment to our alumni, and we welcome any feedback and ideas for future webinars. Today's presentation is being recorded, and I will notify registrants once the recording is available online. Questions will be welcome throughout today's presentation. Our presenters will answer as many questions as time will allow. If you just roll over the bottom portion of the Zoom window, you should see the Q&A icon appear. Please use that feature to submit your questions. We'll monitor that throughout the webinar and share that with our presenters at the end of their presentation or throughout, depending on the question. Now, without further ado, it is my true pleasure to welcome these guest presenters. I've had the pleasure of working with both of them over the past 10 years in their roles both at LinkedIn and beyond. And here's my quick, more formal intro that with their MBAs in hand, Omar Garrett and Jeremy Schiefling first joined forces to lead marketing for LinkedIn's education team. Their charter, demystify LinkedIn for tens of millions of college students and staff. Their results, 2 times the number of students and recent grads on LinkedIn, now its fastest growing audience, and more than 4,000 universities brought on to the site, including the ones that I worked at the time and now William & Mary. Their passion is to help people feel fulfilled by their career. I certainly share that. And they have always had a soft spot for helping people build meaningful and rewarding careers. Jeremy was a career coach at the University of Michigan's Ross School of Business and founded the first site to help technical MBAs break into the tech sector. Omar was a Teach for America teacher, coached low-income young people through the transitions to college and career, and worked for Apple helping educators use tech in the classroom. They've gone on to many more adventures in their career. I'll let them tell that in their stories ahead, but we are truly delighted to welcome Omar and Jeremy to join us this afternoon and share their advice and expertise on LinkedIn with the William & Mary community. Thank you both.
Thanks, Michael, so much for having us, and thank you all for joining today. Really commend you on taking a big step forward in your own career navigation, and that's because we are firm believers that LinkedIn is the most useful professional skill as you navigate your careers and whatever comes next. We also just want to give a quick shout out to Michael for bringing you this programming, for partnering with us. As he said, our relationship goes back many years to when Jeremy and I were working at LinkedIn, and he's always been a real advocate for the communities that he serves. Y'all are very lucky to have him in this role, working with Tribe alumni. So quick background on us, as Michael said, we both have MBAs and kids. I went to the other great university in Virginia, just down the road in Charlottesville, for my undergrad, and wanted to go to William & Mary pretty much my whole life till I discovered UVA. No offense, William & Mary is also a great school. But besides loving our alma maters and our kids, we also love LinkedIn. And that's because not only did we work there and help start the student and college team, but also we have seen it bear real fruit in terms of producing job offers, meaningful connections. Both of us have found or been found for multiple jobs on LinkedIn, and this is really the way the job search happens. We've been lucky enough to work with a whole bunch of different schools, including UVA and U of R in state here, and really excited to add William & Mary to the roster today. And please know that we are available to you throughout your LinkedIn journey, no matter where that takes you. This is meant to be a kickoff and an introduction and kind of a crash course today. All right, so in our work with students, schools, career staff, and many alumni, executive MBAs, and people at any stage of their career search, we sort of want to start with 3 core principles that we've learned. First is that labor, as we all know, is a market, right? But the actual way that hiring happens is a process. It's supply meeting demand and all of the messiness therein that is really important actually to understand. Secondly, because it's a process, like any process, it can be reverse engineered if, as I said, you understand it. And the way to do that is to use LinkedIn. LinkedIn lets you hack straight into that hiring process. And we're going to talk about what that means. But if you're not convinced on the value of LinkedIn in the modern job search, just know that It is by far the way that especially mid-career professionals are found. As we know, 80% of jobs are found through networking. 80% of jobs aren't even ever posted externally. They're hired internally or through people that the hiring manager already knows. And so it's not really even who you know, it's who they know. It's the power of weak ties. LinkedIn has nearly 650 million members. And if you don't have an optimized presence on it, you don't exist in the working world. And that's both in terms of your network and your profile. So let's just break down what we mean by hacking the hiring process. Recruiters and hiring managers will go through these 5 steps to find and hire great candidates, right? They're looking for focused candidates who are serious about their firm or the role. They want referrals because they all know that's the best source of talent. They select based on their own connections as well as knowledge that candidates have of the firm. And then they do background checks, right, when you get to that stage. So how to hack it? You need to hack into each one of these steps. So if they're looking for focused candidates, get focused. If they want to see who's raised their hand for this specific firm or types of roles, you need to demonstrate that you are that person and demonstrate engagement so you pass through recruiter filters. They're looking for referrals. What do you need to do? Find warm leads. That's a big focus of the job search, into whatever career stage you're in. They're selecting based on connections and knowledge. So you need to build your network and your knowledge. And then finally, you can actually use LinkedIn to do your own background check and do your own due diligence as to whether these are the right opportunities for you and the place you want to end up. So today we're going to go pretty fast. We may not get fully to the last few steps, but you will get this deck. And again, feel free to reach out to us. The first thing that the job search hacker knows how to do is to leverage a tool that Jeremy and I helped build when we were at and market when we were at LinkedIn. And that is to build a purposeful network using the LinkedIn Alumni tool. This is a place where you can see everyone who went to William & Mary and be able to slice and dice it in really interesting, but also very useful ways to you. So you're going to be reaching out to people who individually have career paths that may be interesting to you, could help you break into a new industry, help you advance in your career, or make even a slight pivot. And Jeremy will do a demo of this shortly. Really valuable place to start. Once you've built some of those purposeful connections, you need to make sure you have a broad network, an even broader network. And the minimum threshold, with hopefully you all have, but if you don't, you need to be getting to at least 500 connections. And that's because above 500, you're starting to really tap into the power of network effect on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the great democratizer of one's network, right? You get above that number and you're able to all of a sudden be 1 degree removed from millions of people. If you just think about the ripple effects of me being connected to Michael, who has thousands of connections, right? And so on, you can see. And I think once you do this, you'll see you're only 1 degree removed from a whole lot of people in a whole lot of places. The best way to do this, and if you do one thing today, it's to make sure you use the contact import tool that Jeremy will also show you in a second, because that's a quick way to expand your network by adding people who you already know. These are people you don't need to send a personalized connection request to. They're people who are already, you've already corresponded with, because you're gonna tie up your email to LinkedIn and selectively go through and invite people. This is a quick way to be able to see into a whole lot of new networks and contacts. All right, so Jeremy, do you want to show us the Alumni tool and contact import?
Absolutely, and just to make this a little more interactive, obviously feel free to ask questions at any point, but if you don't mind chatting into the Zoom chat right now, maybe a couple of different fields you're considering. You know, it's a new year, it's a new decade, you're thinking about maybe breaking into the tech space or nonprofit or clean tech. If you have a sort of space that you're really excited about and you want to see how to use LinkedIn to explore that and the power of the W&M Alumni Network, just go ahead and chat that in right now. Okay, so as you chat in some of those ideas, I want to start with a really important resource that everyone should be familiar with, and that's wmalumni.com/onenetwork. And if you point your browser here, you're going to find a wealth of resources that Michael and his team have put together to help you with every step of your search in the new year. In particular, once you come over to this page, you want to scroll on down to the William & Mary on LinkedIn section, where you can find all the pages that we're about to show you. So if you ever want to find links back, you've got that digital cookie trail crumb right here for you. And in addition, the course that we normally sell for $99, but that's free to you as a William & Mary alum, is also linked to you right here on this page. So again, head to wmalumni.com/one-network. You can get access to all these resources. Okay, thank you,
All right,
everyone.
Jeremy, I see a few
Yeah.
nonprofits, several of those. I see a clean energy, I see a leadership coaching, and even education marketing.
Absolutely. So these are great. I think because there's a plurality of nonprofit interests coming from Sarah and from Amy and a couple others, we're going to focus there. So maybe let's say in the 2010s, you've been working in the for-profit space and that was great, but now you're ready for a change and you want to plunge into this nonprofit sector, but you're not sure how to do it. Well, let the alumni from William & Mary who've gone before you help sort of light your trail and help you blaze your path. And the way you're going to do that is you're going to come up to the top of the LinkedIn search and you're just going to put in William & Mary. And what you're going to find at the very top here is all these pages for the business school, for different parts of it. And in particular, what you really want to start with is the school page for the overall university. So William & Mary school page, that's where we're going to begin. And while there's lots of great content up here, the most valuable resource, as with all valuable resources throughout time, is hidden in plain sight. And that is this alumni tab. This is the page that Michael has linked to on that One Network page. So if you come over here to alumni, you can definitely follow along in your own browsers right now. You're going to find more than 60,000 William & Mary alums who've gone to almost every career path, whether it's on the East Coast, across the country, around the globe, whether it's consulting, whether it's technology, whether it's finance, all these interesting paths that you can explore and learn from. So what I'm going to recommend is that you come over here and you say, you know what? I want to find the specific alumni who are in the nonprofit sector. So I search for that, and voila, 60,000 alumni becomes 3,000 who are really targeted. But now you say, you know what? I'm really focused on landing a job in the DC metro area, and in particular at, say, a couple of organizations I'm really passionate about. So maybe American Red Cross, and then maybe also AARP. And all of a sudden, you went from those 60,000 alumni to the 12 alumni who are in the exact right location, the exact right industry, and the exact right organizations. And so what I would recommend for someone like Amy or someone like Sarah who wants to kick the tires on these firms, you're going to scroll all the way down and find the fruits of your labor, which are the specific alumni who are now working at these firms. So you might say, aha, I see someone who's actually doing some communications work at the American Red Cross. And as someone with a marketing background and the communications background, I want to learn from Carrie about her experience. But again, I avoid the trap of just clicking connect. Instead, I go to her profile and I learn a little bit about her background. She went to William & Mary, of course. She's working at the Red Cross. She sort of worked her way up from a senior associate level to a senior director level. And I'm really curious to learn about what it's like on the inside at this awesome nonprofit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the connect button. I'm going to add a note. I'm going to reach out to Carrie like this. And this is sort of the guaranteed way to engage any William & Mary alum, anyone that you reach out to. You're not going to make it about yourself. You're not going to give them your elevator pitch. You're going to make it about them. You're going to say, as a fellow W&M alum, I was thrilled to come across your profile. And you're going to say, as someone considering applying for a role at the Red Cross in 2020, I'd love to learn from your experience. Already you've done two important things. Number one, you built that bridge to them saying, here's what we have in common. Here's why we're members of the same tribe. And then number two, you're not sort of making them a pitch about why you're amazing. You want to understand why they're amazing and what they've learned from their experience. And then finally, to make it really easy to say yes, you're going to say, any chance you have 10 minutes to chat next week. Of course, for every busy professional out there who's listening to this, you know that next week is always better than this week. 10 minutes is always better than 30 minutes. And so you're just lowering the bar, lowering the threshold for Carrie to say, yes, I'll give you some time. I'll share my experience.
Jeremy, I just want to chime in one quick question. I think this is great and this is awesome and I'm delighted. Would you recommend using, I've coached a lot of people on this tool and encouraging them with seconds. For example, Carrie has a second connection with you. So would you encourage utilizing your first connection as a better for this particular individual versus a third situation where you might be best to send and add a note? in a formal connection? What would you recommend? Or do you even encourage using one of your shared connections as a name in this note?
Yeah, so this, ladies and gentlemen, is why Michael is one of the very best career center directors that we ever worked with at LinkedIn, because he's always thinking about the next level move. So absolutely, this is the baseline. This is like, hey, you can reach out to any member of your W&M tribe because that's something that you share in common. But if you want to increase your chances, to Michael's point, of getting Carrie to respond, you could actually say, you know what? Instead of just reaching out cold, I'm going to say, who do we share in common? Who sort of binds us together? And once I know that sort of secondary connection, what I'm going to do is have that person make the introduction. So I might reach out to Ed, for instance, and say, Ed, would you be willing to introduce me to Carrie? And now I have Ed vouching for me, getting that sort of extra connective tissue working on my behalf. So again, feel free to reach out to any alum, but if you have someone in common, use that person as a social bridge. Great point, Michael.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, so that's how you're going to learn about these organizations. You're going to talk to alumni on the inside, you're going to learn about their experience, and you're going to use that to explore these fields to make sure that they're the right ones for you before you take the plunge. Now, Omar, we're going to come back to you, but again, feel free to ask any questions for everyone out there on the line at any point, and then Michael will tee those up.
Real quick, before you go to the next section, I want to tell one thing that I saw in some comments about the class years feature of Alumni Tool, and I think it goes back to your point about importing your contacts and building your base of your network, who you know. It's a great way if you just do the search for your years that you attended William & Mary, and then look at people that you might know, and you'll realize, wait, I know this person. They were in my class for the freshman year or junior year or whatever. It doesn't it doesn't separate out undergrad and graduate students during that time, but it certainly might be a great way to see some connections that you do know that you just weren't thinking about recently. So another little trick that I encourage, especially using with the alumni and class years.
Absolutely.
Yep, I was going to mention that. So play around with those filters and definitely start with your own class years and people who may have overlapped. I think a couple other quick things I would point out. One is, of course, we're here on a William & Mary webinar, but any other schools you may have attended, say grad school, for example, that there's individual school pages for that. Just remember that's also part of your network. Not sure if there's other William & Mary pages. I think the School of Business and the law school have their own pages.
Exactly.
That's sort of a separate search that you need to do. But remember, those people also feel pride in the school and are willing to give back, as Jeremy and I are to the places that we got our MBAs. So also part of your William & Mary network. Think broadly about how you use this tool. And we can show you advanced search later if we have enough time. That would allow you to actually add multiple schools and do the search all at the same time. The last thing that I would also just want to mention, you talked about the hierarchy of reaching out, and it's great to plug that second shared connection in your first outreach. But I think the sequencing that we generally recommend is try connecting with somebody on LinkedIn this way with that personalized note, leveraging your shared affiliation of William & Mary. And if that doesn't work, right, you can actually ask that second degree directly to make an introduction if you're sure that's the person that's going to help you get in the door, understand what it's like to work at this place, etc. There's also other strategies, perhaps using the William & Mary alumni directory or a third-party tool called hunter.io. If you really want to be aggressive, you can literally find anybody's work email address out there and reach out to them directly. So Jeremy's just showing you what that tool will show you. So that's, again, an advanced level hack, but Red Cross is first name dot last name at redcross.org. So usually we recommend start with the personalized connection request first, and then go up the ladder if you have to. Jeremy, can you show real quick contact import, just where that is?
Yeah, so again, in terms of like getting the maximum value from LinkedIn, having a broad network is going to be really powerful for you. And the easiest way to get that network growing fast is to come to the My Network tab at the very top. Again, feel free to follow along on your own browsers. Then scroll down to the Contact Import section. And what you want to do here is you want to import all of your address books. So your company address book, your personal address book, your phone's address book. And now you're going to have all those people visible on LinkedIn, not only who they know, but who they can introduce you to. And as Omar pointed out, that's very powerful in opening doors to opportunities all across the globe.
And if you've, Jeremy and I have each done this multiple times, and you may have done it as well, keep doing it, because I'm always surprised at the new people that, syncing up my Gmail produces 400 new contacts. Well, sure, breadth is the way to start, and then, depth in using the alumni tool. I'm so glad to see the comments, especially from Sarah, about her mind being blown from the alumni tool and the graduation search criteria. Evit had a question about listing our experience. Evit, we'll get to that, and if we don't, hold us accountable. All right, so the next thing that we want to move on to is sort of step 2 that the job search hacker does, and that is, remember, getting focused. And the main reason LinkedIn is valuable here is because it's your 24/7 resume. It's up working hard for you all night long, all day long, when you can't be proactively applying to jobs or doing that proactive networking. So we talked about how to build your network in both a broad and purposeful way. Now we're going to talk about how to optimize your profile. The first thing to realize is how recruiters search. This is a screenshot from the recruiter tool. They're looking for very focused candidates. Notice that they're searching, and we've watched recruiter behavior. They search for a specific title, in this case, project manager, and a location. If they are getting more sophisticated than that, they are in the minority. Traditionally, those are the 2 things they're searching for. They may, if you click again, also be using these quick filters that are at the top of the recruiter product. And every recruiter, 97% of recruiters, use this tool. They live in this all day long. So it's really important to understand how they're looking for talent. They may also click these easy filters around, do they have company connections, and have they engaged with your talent brand? And we'll talk about what those mean. But the main takeaway here is that they're looking for focused candidates by job title and location. Here's just another screenshot of the results once they click on one of those filters. And you can see what pops: profile photo, a headline, right? We're looking at what Kenneth does right at the top there, and he's going to rise up in the search results based on shared connections that he has literally with the recruiter, with the person searching, and the degree to which he matches the algorithmic specifications around job title and location. Okay, so that's how recruiters search. So what does that mean for the job search hacker? You can keep going. What that means is you've got to get focused when it comes to both your headline and location. Usually we ask a poll question about this, but take a second and think to yourself, who has the more optimized profile for that search I just showed you? Is it Megan or Raphael? If you really want, you can put it in the chat. All right, a lot of people think it's Raphael because he's got such a great laundry list of titles and he looks super impressive, but actually it's Megan, right? She's got the exact job title that that recruiter is searching for, which is, remember, the first thing that they're searching. You can click again, Jeremy. And she also lists her location as Chicago. What this means is if you are someone who's based in Richmond and want to be in Washington, D.C., or based in Williamsburg and want to be in New York City, you need to actually list your location as New York City. And that's because that's the way recruiters search. The other implication is to make sure you're loading your headline, which is that top area. It's the most important part of LinkedIn because it's the most character limited. So it's what the algorithm prioritizes the most, making sure that that matches the searches that recruiters are doing. And I'll get into that a little bit more in a second. So really what I'm talking about here is keywords. Keywords are hugely important, primarily in that headline section I was just talking about. Secondarily, in the summary section, which provides a bit of a narrative arc, a bit of a story to who you are, what you've done with a little bit of humanity, and then we recommend at least a paragraph that's just chock full of keywords that you know recruiters are going to search for. And then lastly, to Evet's question, experience and skills are also really important. And what you want to do there is basically make sure you're using keywords, but represent what's on your resume as here was my main responsibility, and then every bullet of your achievements. You can think of your summary section as sort of a bit of a narrative arc, as I said, but also just the greatest hits, your greatest career hits, maybe 3 bullets, and then a whole bunch of keywords that match recruiter searches. And with the right keywords, you're up to 40 times more likely to get profile views by recruiters. How do you know what the right keywords are? You're looking at a lot of job descriptions, right? And you're looking at sample profiles of people who are in the job that you want next, and making sure you're representing those very strongly on your LinkedIn profile. Again, headline first, summary, and then in your actual job experience. So what makes for a discoverable profile in terms of getting focused? you are optimizing for both the man, the human recruiter, and the machine. When it comes to the human recruiter, this might go without saying, but it's shocking how many people don't do this or do it well. You've got to have a strong profile photo that gets you 13 times more profile views. And what that means, as Jeremy's mousing over, is closely cropped, you facing forward, you alone, smiling, and dressed for the appropriate culture that you want to go into. It's always okay to err on the side of formality, but there's really no, we used to work at LinkedIn where they would bring professional photographers to make sure we all had great profile photos because we worked at LinkedIn and we needed that. Now there's absolutely no excuse with the iPhone's quality of camera on portrait mode that's out there. So make sure you have a great warm profile photo. Secondly, remember that headline. Recruiters spend on average 4 seconds reviewing a resume, a LinkedIn profile, and they're spending even less time reviewing the search results in Recruiter. So if they're gonna scan one section, it's gonna be that headline at the very top. That's where you want the keywords to pop out for the search they're doing, i.e. the search you wanna be found for. And then remember, location needs to be the place that they're looking for to hire that role, not necessarily where you're located.
Quick question, Omar, around
Yep.
photos. Privacy settings. Some people set that to not be visible. What are your advice on the visibility of the photo?
We know recruiters, we've literally sat with recruiters who said they discard everybody right off the top who doesn't have a profile photo. So not only do you need to have one and it be public, it needs to be a good one.
Got it.
And you know, if you're not actively looking for a job, perhaps you could make that not visible. But I'm assuming that you are, if you're joining this webinar, / who among us are not always half looking. LinkedIn is not like the other social networks. It's not, it's well lit. It's not meant to be creepy. And literally recruiters will say it's creepy if you don't have a profile photo. And so we strongly recommend that. The downsides are minimal. And if you get harassed or you can start to get some spam, you can always disconnect or block people. The second thing, remember, you're optimizing for is the machine. That's where the keywords come in, making sure you're using the right ones in the right places. And then also, almost just as importantly, is connections, which is why we started at the beginning talking about that. Remember, every single search result is ordered by how many shared connections you have with a person. So you can see our friend Tony at the top came up in these search results because he has a lot of shared connections. That's really important in terms of networking. And again, just to reemphasize how important having a broad network is. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about connections. One question we get is, should I connect with recruiters? Absolutely, why not? Layer on a search in advanced search, layer on who went to William & Mary, right? Those are people you already have that shared connection with. You can send that note that Jeremy showed you. And what that does is gives you instant access to a much broader pool of recruiters because they're connected to each other, right? They bounce around different companies, they go to the same conferences. And so that's gonna help you rise up in the search results. It's really important to be connected with nodes like recruiters, as well as, if you click one more time, nodes like our friend Michael Steelman here. He's connected to a whole bunch of tribe alumni, as well as people in all fields, right? And so think about who you can connect with that are, you know, sort of at the center of some of these important networks, because it's really important that you're plugged in to those networks to rise up in search results. And it's just also another form of like, this person's vetted, right? We have shared connections. I sort of can trust that this person is vetted and I can reach out to them.
Get ready for a million connection requests, Michael.
Yep. All right, so real quick, and then we're gonna demo a profile, but here's your checklist.
Can I interrupt one more thing quickly
to
that point, Jeremy? I only accept when there's a note that has some type of explanation of why we should connect, not
perfect.
Standard.
I have the same rule, Michael, and actually have a really low bar of just, do I know you? But even if I don't, if you guys try to connect with us today, if you have personalized it and said great webinar or terrible webinar, at least referencing something, I will accept that request, because breadth is the main thing we're going for here. So remember, on your profile checklist, we're optimizing for the algo and for the recruiter. Do you have keywords in the right places? Are you connected with recruiters or people that they're likely to be connected to? And then, will the recruiter pick you? Do you stand out in those search results with a great headshot? Do you have an aspirational headline that shows a little bit of humanity? It's okay to do that. I think one of my headlines is tech marketer for good, right? And then in your summary, Are you providing a bit of a story element to what you've done, but also popping in a ton of those keywords? The last thing, which I didn't mention that's on here, is especially for people like you who are maybe a little bit into your careers at this point, we recommend getting one recommendation per job as a source of extra validation, if you can. And then also, recruiters, actually 3/4 of them say that they treat volunteer experience on par as full-time paid work experience. And so don't neglect that section. A lot of times people are saying, oh, I want to make a career pivot, but I don't have the requisite skills to match those job descriptions. Well, volunteering, pro bono type stuff especially, is a great way to start to fill in some of those keywords, because you might have been able to do those kinds of projects, or maybe you can go do that now as a step to making a career change. But just remember that that section really matters as well. Don't give it short shrift. All right, Jeremy, how do you want to do this?
Yeah, so this is the most exciting moment in the presentation, because this is actually a chance to have your own profile reviewed by the LinkedIn guys. So if you're brave enough to go to LinkedIn and then go over to the Me section and then view profile, you can actually grab your profile URL just by copying that. And if you want reviewed now live by the LinkedIn guys, just go ahead and paste it into the chat along with your focus area. Because as Omar said, there's no such thing as a perfect profile in general. There's just a perfect profile for a specific focus area. So paste in your profile, paste in a specific area you're excited about, and we'll review it through that lens. So go ahead and chat those in now. As those come in, Michael, any comments you want to make about the profile or things you've seen looking at William & Mary alumni profiles?
I think, I've really encouraged people to think about what they've accomplished in their experience, not just job descriptions, quantitative if they can, and obviously if it's impressive, to really not have a resume that's so different than their LinkedIn profile. Many people have very little on their LinkedIn profile sometimes when I see their resume. I'm thinking, this is great data that you've put into this piece. Why don't you make this more public in your LinkedIn profile? So I think just, and I would say visiting that regularly enough that you keep it up to date, and it's sort of the accomplish word bank, so to speak, for you all to keep track of your career, and add some dimensional things with some of the PDFs and PowerPoint ability and web connections and videos and things that you can do now on the profile. Make it really interesting that people want to spend a little bit of time on there, diving deeper into your background and qualifications.
Cool. Well, I have to give a huge shout out to Sarah and to Jerry and to Victor, and to Amy and Debbie for sharing your links. I believe that Ethan was actually the first to submit the link and the focus area. So we'll give Ethan the first shot here. So Ethan is very brave. So huge shout out across Tribe Nation to Ethan. And Ethan is saying, hey, I'm coming out of William & Mary with this MBA, and I really want to break into the tech space. How do I make sure that my profile stands out to tech recruiters across this entire industry? So we're going to break this down section by section in the exact same way that Omar just mentioned. So just to sort of lay the groundwork here, we're going to come over to LinkedIn and search it the way that a recruiter might. Now, this is not the recruiter version. This is the one that you use every day. But imagine me saying, hey, I need an MBA who's focused on tech product management. And what we're going to find when we look at the people results is that sure enough, there are some really clear similarities across all the top results. They all have product management in their headline. They all have tech in their headline. They all have MBA in their headlines. LinkedIn is not rocket science, ladies and gentlemen. It takes the things that recruiters are hungry for, the explicit terms that they're searching, and just maps them back to your profile into the most important sections. So you can easily win LinkedIn just by being responsive to what recruiters put in their job descriptions. So in Ethan's case, right now, if he wants to be a product manager in the tech space, he's never going to be found by anyone searching for that, because tech and product management don't appear anywhere in his most important section, the headline. So the thing that Ethan should immediately put on here is tech product manager, or if that feels too bold or too confident, aspiring tech product manager, future tech product manager, because LinkedIn, in all of its benevolence, doesn't care about the modifier, the aspiring or the future. It just cares about that phrase. Are you matching the exact thing that a recruiter has in the job description? If so, you're on their radar. So that's the first thing you want to do, Ethan. Next up, if you're considering moving to, say, Silicon Valley or Seattle, and you have a certain focus area, remember that thing that Omar mentioned about recruiters are looking for job titles and they're looking for locations. So if someone says at Amazon's HQ, I need great product managers in Seattle, you will never be found in Herndon. What you can do if you intend to move to the Emerald City after graduation is you can absolutely update your location to Seattle. And then if a recruiter reaches out and says, hey, we need you at Amazon HQ on Monday for an interview, you book your plane ticket and you get out there. Because guess what? Your resume, your CV, that's about your past, about where you've been. But LinkedIn, it's about your future. It's about where you're headed next. And you want to telegraph that loud and clear to the recruiters of the world. So make sure you have the location, make sure you have the headline. I love that you have 500 plus connections. It's going to give you a huge sort of head start as you network with William & Mary alumni across the country. I think one thing I should just call out is that from a photographic perspective, because in a lot of ways this is the most human part of LinkedIn, while Omar did say it's totally fair to sort of err on the side of conservatism, I will promise you that Omar and I have never worked in a tech company where anyone ever wore a suit to the office. And so if you want to match sort of the culture and the feel of being part of the tribe, again, just do this search and copy Hannah, copy Evelyn, copy these insiders based on what they're wearing on the inside. Doesn't have to be totally informal, but it should be a good fit for the culture that you want to be a part of. And then finally, this cover photo is broadcasting where you work today, but it's not broadcasting where you want to work next. And if you want to find some really great, totally free, beautiful stock photography, head over to a site called pexels.com. And what you can do is you can look up stuff like Whiteboard or San Francisco, and you can find these gorgeous photos, all free, to use as your cover photo to build that personal brand. If I'm focused on tech, if I'm focused on the Bay Area, let me signal that not just with words, but with pictures as well. So that way, you win those first most important pixels at the top of your page. Now, as we scroll down, that about or summary section that Omar mentioned is also really critical, the second most important section for the algorithm. And unfortunately, even though you have some good content here, you're not taking advantage of all 4,000 characters. So what I would highly recommend doing is checking out Omar's profile. You can feel free to shamelessly copy this over. Omar won't mind. Is Omar has basically all the parts of a good marketing message. First of all, he has a clear headline. This is his value prop in a nutshell. This is what he stands for. But down below it, he has the evidence to back it up. These are the brands he's worked for. This is the work that he's accomplished. And that speaks to the human recruiter. And then for the algorithm's benefit, he has all these incredible keywords just jammed there in that really critical section, all pulled straight off the job description. So if you want to make sure that you're nailing your summary section, Ethan, make sure that you have all those important tech keywords, as well as a sense of why you have the tech skills as a product manager or a product marketer to get the job done. And that way you'll speak to both sides of the LinkedIn search equation. I love the fact that you have good bullets down below, including some quantitative impact. Obviously, Michael and his team can work with you on taking those to the next level if desired. And then all I would encourage you to do is apply that same level of rigor, that same level of detail to your education section. What clubs have you led? What honors have you earned? What scholarships have you received? If any, list those out to demonstrate those to the recruiters of the world. Same for volunteer experience as well. So I love the fact that you have all these skills and endorsements. However, as Omar mentioned, you definitely want some recommendations. One of the big things that differentiates a LinkedIn profile from a resume is your resume is all your say-so. This is Ethan according to Ethan. But LinkedIn is a rare chance for a recruiter to pull back the curtain and get Ethan according to his boss and his boss's boss and the people who knew him best. And so if you can get some recommendations, even just one for each of your jobs, that's going to give some third-party credibility to who you are and what you say. And then lastly, as Omar mentioned, it's really critical that you make it easy for recruiters to find you and make sure that you're a serious, engaged candidate. And the way you can do that is by following all the companies you're excited about. So for example, if you want to work at Amazon, just head over to their page, go ahead and click follow, and then you're going to be golden. So let me just unfollow this for a second. Then you come over here and then click the follow button to go ahead and get started. One other thing that I really want to call out, and this is so critical, is if you come over to the profile section, and this is the last piece, is you want to come over to this open to job opportunities area. This is shining a bat signal to all the recruiters of the world saying, hey, Ethan is in the game. Ethan is ready for opportunity. And if you click the pencil icon, you can come in and you can put in the exact job titles: product manager, product marketer, biz ops manager. San Francisco, Seattle, Washington, D.C., Atlanta, internship, full-time, and let recruiters know that you're open for business. So that way, when they do their searches, they're going to find you and they're going to choose you. So Ethan, huge props. You were super brave and super bold in sharing your profile with us. You've helped your whole community learn along. And now I'm going to pass the torch over to Michael for some additional comments.
Real quick question about this last feature. I'm sure people are worried that if their colleagues that are even their HR team are worried that they're going to see their profile pop up and that this person's looking to move. What is your knowledge about the algorithm and how this works within where you current employees of your company?
Yeah, great question. So LinkedIn does its best to protect you in that regard by not allowing this signal to be seen by anyone who lists your company on their profile. So if I'm a recruiter at Teneo and I'm searching for talent, I'm not going to see this signal coming from Ethan. However, LinkedIn can sort of verify every possible use case. So there may be a third-party headhunter or someone outside the organization who could potentially find that signal and then rat Ethan out, however unlikely that is. So definitely, as with all things with career, there is risk and reward enmeshed together here.
But at the bottom, you can specify I only want recruiters to see it, meaning people who are using the recruiter product, right? So Jeremy, if you go back to me, will you see my signal?
So I will not see your signal because I am not using the recruiter product.
Great.
So you're absolutely right.
Yeah, that's just the point I wanted to make. There was also a question for you or Michael or whomever about, what level of detail do you put when it comes to your experience?
Want to take that, Michael?
I mean, I really, go back to the point that I was making earlier in that, you can combine your job description things to an accomplishment that demonstrates both what you were doing and what you influenced and made possible. So in this example, Ethan does a great job of, I think, putting together some quantitative, like Jeremy pointed out, that's a big number, big in business and in the finance world, you want to demonstrate the bottom line, the money, right? And what your revenue driving is and sales and so forth, whatever it might be. And then, with Excel, for example, I'm a big believer that you got to demonstrate what you were doing with the software, not just that you know it, because there's a lot of people that say they know it, but know it basic. And if you use the terminology that these recruiters are looking for and the outcomes that they're looking for, that's what you want to demonstrate in these experience levels. I would not get too much longer than what is here. I think this is a right length, because if you make it too long, then you won't be able to encourage them to read all of it. And then, I think what's really nice is this whole way that LinkedIn has put together employee growth within a company and sort of combined your different experiences. So if you've moved over a course of 2-3 years, every 2 years, building your career, it's a nice way to, like, for example, this is great. And I like how Omar has put in some video links. It kind of catches the eye and encourages something. So, if you're not a marketing person, it may be difficult, or designer or something like that, you might be limited, but there might be some article you wrote something with or were featured on in your company. This is your moment to shine. Don't be shy about it.
Yeah. So I would just add a few things. I agree with the showing, not telling wherever possible. And there was a question that came up around, what do you think about posting? We generally are not fans of like posting on LinkedIn like you would on another social network. What is valuable is not only showing actual work products like you just saw on my profile, but in particular, posting blog posts, especially if you're looking to make a career pivot or like a half pivot. That's because it's right there attached to the top of your profile. You get built-in distribution because it's on LinkedIn and will be shared. And also it's a way for you to just say, look, I have an opinion, I have an original thought on a field I want to get into. And you just write an article on LinkedIn to do that. You can throw in hashtags, but it's a great, maybe you went to a conference and you want to share your reflections. Think about doing this because it's attached right to the profile. And just like a recommendation, it's a way to get validation quick when somebody's scanning your profile. The other thing I would say is I politely disagree with my expert LinkedIn friend Michael on the length of your experience in the profile, and that's because two reasons. One is, think of your LinkedIn profile, as Jeremy mentioned, your LinkedIn profile is more aspirational and forward-looking, whereas your resume is a reflection of what have you done. I think that is true, but it's also a way for you to it's your resume and it's your resume and what are you trying to do next? It's your resume and validation via recommendations and endorsements. It's your resume and a narrative arc in your summary that ties these things together. And so I would say all the great work you've done on your resume and you continue to update, reflect that on your LinkedIn profile. It actually compresses each of your job descriptions, and they can click more if they want to for that scrollability factor. But I think that the format we generally recommend is a sentence or two describing what your role was, and then bullets that are really about your achievements. And there, my profile is not the best example. And then again, you pull up the top 3 sort of greatest hits in your summary section. Jeremy does a better job of this, right?
I completely agree, Omar. I like your
greatest hits.
I like that comment. And I was just thinking, I think what's important is to keep the big news on the top so that it's seen.
Yeah.
Because if you hide it down 3 or 4 paragraphs below, it's not going to be seen as often because not as many people do the see more.
Yeah, but also don't just say what you did, right? It's what you did and what you accomplished. And then Jeremy, back up at the top of your profile, he does another thing that I just want to point out quickly. In his summary section, he's actually put his contact information. So if you're really looking for a job, this is a great little hack to use because recruiters actually only get 1 in-mail a day. And so they're not going to waste those on people. Why make them waste them? Why not put your email right in there as a way for people to reach directly out? Just a thought if you're really actively looking.
One more question, Omar, that chimed in
Yep.
around your posting, and I think this is important. The question from Sarah was whether or not to link to posts that you've done on your own company site or somewhere else in a journal, or literally using LinkedIn to create the post. And I think you meant literally using LinkedIn to create an article. It could repurpose something from another place, but I think it's really nice to feature it through LinkedIn, right?
Yeah, that's what I was referring to. And this is really as a way to position yourself as, somebody who has something to say about an industry you might want to go into. That or you're an advancer and you want to codify some learnings you've had. If you're someone that posts elsewhere, professionally posts, things on Medium, for example, you can absolutely repost it here or link to it. But I think, and this is a post that Jeremy's making, not an article. But this may or may not be helpful. LinkedIn says it's helpful. They say every post you make will lead to an average of 1 extra follower or people viewing your company if you care about that. But what I was referring to is actually writing a blog post, an article on LinkedIn that will be attached to your profile. The other thing you can do that Jeremy was showing, just for clarity, on my profile is rich media. So videos, PDFs. I tend to like, to put videos up here because I'm a marketer and I've actually made those. But anything that shows off the quality of your work. I was just doing a session with students over at UVA and we were talking about, could you put up a paper that you wrote that, some analysis you're really proud of? This is not critical, but it's a way to visually improve your profile and also a way to just show, not tell. And so think about what that is. Sometimes people will just put up generic information about, maybe they'll even just link to the homepage of the company they work for. If it's not a well-known firm you're currently with, for example, you can do that. But really this is meant for you to be able to show, not tell, who you are. And Jeremy's showing you how you would do that. So you can actually add this kind of information to your profile overall, or you can add it to specific sections of your profile. So kind of like I did, if you want to say, okay, here's a work product I did at a specific job, you would just click that pencil and upload or put a link in there and add a little description about what this actually is, because that's the header, that's the preview that it'll show as. Okay, yes, blog post is kind of a newish feature, but it's really a good thing to do if you want to break in, especially to a new type of role or industry. Okay, I'm going to keep going in the spirit of time. We'll try to leave 5 minutes for questions. A lot of what I have left to say is going to reiterate some of the stuff that Jeremy already showed you, so that's great. But step 3 is all around showing engagement. This is really important. So the first thing is that bat signal that Jeremy talked about. He can demo in a second. You can also set up job alerts for specific companies. So not only following them, but setting up job alerts for them. And then now, a brand new feature, you can toggle on to let recruiters know that you've actually set up job alerts for the companies. And this will help you stand out a little bit when they're doing that search. and say, hey, they've actually set up job alerts for your specific company. The other thing that you need to make sure that so here's what it looks like in Recruiter. They can now filter very quickly on open to new opportunities, in addition to, do you have company connections and have you engaged with their talent brand? So everybody should be shining that bat signal and saying you're open to new opportunities, because again, who of us are not? The other thing is to make sure you have an email address that you actually check connected to your LinkedIn account, because every couple months they'll turn this bat signal off because they want you to go in and raise your hand again and say that you are open. So make sure you do that. And again, you can get specific about what types of jobs you're looking for, even what location. Now, I keep mentioning that they can also do this filter on engage with your talent brand. That is just as simple as, are you following their company? So as Jeremy mentioned, if you click again, every possible place you might want to work, you just want to make sure you're following. It's as simple as that. While you're on that company page, you might as well go ahead and set up those job alerts that I talked about and let recruiters know that you're open. You can also set up general job alerts for any type of search. Here we've done brand manager in Chicago, and you can save that and now also decide how you want to get notified. One thing that I would say about this is it's great to get regular notifications, because most jobs, for those of you who are hiring managers, in the first 72 hours, you're sort of taking that first wave of people you're going to interview. And so you really want to jump on a job application within those first 3 days. And if you, and this is an important reason why job alerts on LinkedIn are very valuable. And LinkedIn now, by the way, is you can trust is capturing almost every job that's out there, because they're scraping it from across the web and have actually acquired some companies that are themselves job boards. There's over 20 million jobs on LinkedIn. So set up those job alerts so you can apply right away. And then of course, you're trying to find a warm lead at those jobs. Here's what I was talking about around setting up that specific job alert, which Jeremy can show you if we have time, and letting recruiters know. Jeremy, is there any of that you'd like to show, or do you want to take questions?
Yeah, I think we've covered quite a bit of that in the previous demo. Any questions, Michael, that are bubbling to the top?
I think right now, no. I mean, I think we've covered a lot throughout. Obviously, if you have a question, we'd be happy to go a little over 1 o'clock too, if we need to. I know they have a few more slides that they want to cover in the next section.
I do have another quick section on getting a warm lead. Let me just get through this, and then I'll stop with about 3-4 minutes left. So just to emphasize how important getting a warm lead is, this is an amazing stat to me, but 40% of people who are ultimately hired are referrals, and yet they only make up 7% of applications, one of the smallest pool of applicants, but far and away the biggest source of hires. So every recruiter, every hiring manager knows this. Referrals are the best way to, the best source of talent. So what that means is you need to get a referral. Not only is it the best way to make sure you get hired, most people at most companies get a referral bonus if you get hired, right? So they have a vested interest when you do that outreach like Jeremy showed you earlier. So your task is to get a warm lead. And here's just a quick search that I did for people at Microsoft. This is advanced search, which if we have time we could show, but it allows you to do searches on additional things than just what we showed you in the Alumni tool. So you can add multiple schools, you can add multiple companies, you can even add specific titles. So I could search for product managers at Microsoft. This search I just did William & Mary and Microsoft, and came up with 77 people who are currently working at Microsoft. So just remember, this laser targeted search gives you a really great way to reach more people. This is just a template that was pretty much exactly what Jeremy showed you when you're reaching out to people, but this has like a 2/3 success rate of getting responses. It's because you're playing on the shared affiliation, you're saying you're not going to waste their time, and you're flattering them. Flattery rarely does not work. Okay, and I think we'll probably stop here because the rest of the stuff is around interview prep. Again, you'll get this deck. Just remember to review the profiles of people who you're interviewing with, even if it's informational. And Jeremy, actually, if you want to go to the last slide.
And Omar, while you're doing that, Jeremy, one little plug about the last part about referrals. I think it's important to notify all of you that there's the switchboard, which is for alumni only to network with one another, asking and offering in a professional manner to supplement LinkedIn. And we didn't even talk about LinkedIn groups, but they took a big change about a couple of years ago. And so we were looking for a solution, and the switchboard is on that page that Jeremy referenced in the very beginning of the webinar, the One Tribe, One Network. If you just go to the William Mary switchboard link right there, this is a place where if you just click join, you'll see an example of what it looks like, that people post positions at their company or asks of things that they're looking for. It's a great place to, if you have the referral team, referral program at your company or firm, this is where you should be posting. It's very grassroots, peer-to-peer type recruiting opportunity. So just
Awesome.
another tool that I want to make sure all of you know, and it's supplemental to LinkedIn. Everything that you just learned from these two experts is not it's not to change this. It's all working together on both of those tools.
That's awesome. So again, Michael is such an amazing resource for you guys, and you're so lucky to have him supporting you. So just want to point out a few quick things, which is how to reach us if you need to, but also want to reiterate, Michael has purchased on your behalf a LinkedIn course, an on-demand course where we walk through all these principles in much more detail. If you just go to bit.ly/GoTribeLinkedIn, you can actually go get started with putting these principles into practice. Do it at your own pace, and please keep that link within the William & Mary network, please. The one thing that we did skip over on the slides that is somewhat valuable is just to, when you get to that sort of offer stage or you're really serious about a company, you can use that advanced search feature that we screenshotted and actually search on past companies. That's our recommended way of finding of doing your own background check, because those are the people who give you the real scoop on what it's like to work there, not the people who are working there right now, right? So Jeremy's doing William & Mary. I think you have to do, so William & Mary past company Google, and let's just see what we come up with. Here's your lead list of people to reach out to, because they're no longer at Google, and they will tell you how terrible of a place it is actually to work. Sorry, I didn't say that.
One thing
okay. Any final points?
I'll add a couple thoughts to
Please.
the alumni tool usage. You mentioned that you can look at other universities, and I would say that sometimes people come to me with questions about graduate studies or expertise in an area that they might get a certificate in or some type of online course. You can use that tool for any institution out there in the world, and so I recommend finding a university that you've heard a lot about, and then doing like a keyword search on William & Mary in there and seeing who may have gone to William & Mary either as an undergrad or graduate student and now also studied there. It's just a nice little way to leverage your William & Mary affinity and your interest in continuing your education somewhere. Certainly just another thing. And the other thing is to note that they have connected on company pages where people went to school. So they've connected the dots of the alumni tool to a company page now, which is another way to access some of the data that we were talking about under the people. Perfect.
Yeah, there's a question about joining communities and groups. Michael, you might have more to say about that. And I know you already sort of mentioned changes to groups, but the one thing I would say is following specific people and or industries is just a way to stay on top of what's happening in that industry. You'll start to get that stuff in your newsfeed. But we're otherwise not huge fans of things like groups, and you basically had to recreate your own because it hasn't proven super useful. But what do you think, Michael?
I'll give you a few thoughts. They have done some things recently, actually, literally in the past few months, that have improved it. Searchability within the group, some other interesting things that they had a while back but then took away. I would highly recommend you joining the ones that are William & Mary, and then also anything that's industry related that you think you should be a part of, because there will be a lot of spam and noise, but there's also a lot of key points that people do still make. The other thing is the ability to search the members and send messages directly to a fellow member without in-mail. We didn't talk about anything about the paid versions of LinkedIn. It's a feature that they limit the number of messages you can send that way, but it's certainly another way to reach out to people directly without the connection ask. I encourage people to use some of the William & Mary groups to, use the alumni tool to find the individuals and then go to the group that then you share with that person and then send them a message through that means. And I don't know, Jeremy, I think is showing you slightly, if you go to the top right where it has the members, you can see all, and then you can literally search we're connected, so we'll be a first. But if you wanted to connect it to somebody that's a second, you could hit message and it'll pop up the message directly to them. And that's a feature that not many people realize exists.
Hey, Jeremy, should people have premium?
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up, Michael, because I feel like that is sort of the number one question. Even though we are still LinkedIn shareholders through Microsoft, we actually highly recommend not spending a cent on LinkedIn unless you have to. And the reason for that is pretty much every single thing we've just shown you, accessing the right alumni for the right jobs, for the right opportunities, is 100% free. And so whether it's reaching out through LinkedIn, through the William Mary Alumni Directory, through Hunter.io, there's almost always a way to get in touch with someone without paying LinkedIn for the privilege of sending emails. That being said, there is one unique case where you may want to get LinkedIn Premium, which is if your networking is getting really hot and heavy, LinkedIn may at some point say, you know what, your behavior looks like that of a recruiter or a salesperson, and we want you to buy those really expensive products. So we're going to cut you off on more searches and more profile views for the rest of the month. And at that point, we still don't think you should cave in. You should still hold out, get a free trial of LinkedIn Premium for 30 days and then cancel, create another LinkedIn account just for viewing and searching. But if you really need it, we think, $50 or $100 a month for 1 month or 2 months is worth it if it leads to a job that changes your life. That's the one case where paying LinkedIn Premium does have an ROI.
The other thing is the LinkedIn Learning, I think, is a really interesting tool for those of you that don't know, and I think that's now included in some of the premium. So if you're looking to build skill sets that you want to go through the video learning tool, it's a pretty nice resource. They purchased lynda.com several years back and have expanded that resource.
Yeah, there's tons of stuff like this on LinkedIn, and this is probably one of the more valuable areas. But what we were trying to emphasize today is like what really matters when it comes to the job search, and that's connections, that's optimizing your profile, that's shining your bat signal, and doing things like following companies and letting recruiters know that you're doing that. So just wanted to make sure we emphasize those quick actions that will lead to the best outcomes.
Well,
please do contact us if you have more questions.
I want to say thank you. I'll do a personal shout out. These two have been always there when they were working at LinkedIn. I remember many calls and actually visited them in Mountain View. I think in 2012 when they were there, and they were great hosts, and it's really fun to bring back the connection. Jeremy and I share an alma mater. Omar obviously lives in the state of Virginia still and enjoys his affinity through the 64 corridor. But the friendships and the learning experiences is a great example of how using LinkedIn and maintaining connections with them. I felt like I ping them every so often on the message tool, and they immediately respond. And I think I encourage all of you following today and in the future to use LinkedIn as a means to expand your network and to manage your network, most importantly. It's not about the quantity of your connections. It's really about the quality that you check in on a daily basis and you respond when you have a request. It's not about just getting, it's about giving into your community and sharing interesting things and findings that you learn about. And by doing that, people will see you. They'll see you more present. They'll think of you more directly and indirectly, and that will all help you in the future and also make it very rewarding. Last, I want to plug a few things coming up. You mentioned nonprofits in one of the searches. We have a breakfast and business cards here in DC on January 29th, featuring leaders in the nonprofit space. We have on this Friday, we have an international affairs breakfast with an incredible panel speakers, including alumnus ambassador Tom Shannon. And then we have the Professionals Week, which we've been gearing up for February 24th through the 28th. We'll have several webinars, online networking hours for anybody wherever you are in the world to chime in on. We'll also have regional events throughout the country. So I hope you'll be able to join us for some of the online and in-person that week. So save your calendar, hold that week, February 24th through the 28th of this year. And with that, I wish you all the very best this new year. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, Omar, for your friendship and expertise. And go Tribe.